1 year away from matriculation. I thought that I have very bright prospects. Poland was rapidly advancing really in all fields, you know, not only in technology, but in culture and all that. We had very good teachers. We were quite happy. We had that sense of belonging to the country, that's our country, that's a country that we will manage very soon, we thought then. Of course, it turned out differently.
Improving ourselves and improving the whole world. And 2 weeks before the war started, I received a letter from my parents asking me to return because they think that war could start. But I still didn't believe, you know, because I was so happy. I was probably very naive.
Then I went to high school, and then when I finished high school, I entered the Air Force Academy in Dublin. That was 3 years course. And when I graduated from it as a pilot officer, I was posted to number 1 regiment in Warsaw. When I was flying first couple of, when the war broke, you see, on the first day we were very heavily bombarded, and our airfield was almost completely destroyed.
To say goodbye to my husband, he said, all right, I will see you in 6 weeks' time. The 6 weeks took 7 years.
Well, the Polish campaign lasted about 4 weeks.
Well, the Germans attacked, and they started with the attack from the air. It was something which is completely strange to anybody in those days. So they've been the air attacks. I mean, the Polish Air Force was probably a very good one, but was very small, and was practically destroyed on the ground.
And now the first step the Germans did was on the 3rd of September, the first Sunday. The synagogues were burned, and 5 o'clock in the morning, the 154 people were executed, and there were students.
They start to, deporting people from Poland. There was a systematic work. They blocked Main Street, for instance, for 1 mile, and blocked the, small side street that nobody can run away. And then later on, they put us on the train and deported us to the camp in Germany.
So I just didn't know what to do with myself. And of course there was an employment office order to report for everyone from 14 years onwards. And of course I went, lined up, and then I was sent to work on a German farm.
Everyone did come, and did come the SS. We sent away, all more or less, the older people, and the young ones still left. That's how it go every few months, something else. Boys with the SS, and they said, all right, it is Judenreich. That means all Jews have to go. So the night we went into Auschwitz, and we said, all right, and like some of them, what was already at Auschwitz, working, more or less. He said, all right, everyone, the clothes undressed, and just drop the clothes, 1 hip, the clothes.
So our representative in Bucharest, they were organizing the escape routes, and in October, I was able to get to the Greek ship and leave Romania, and we went to Beirut. We went this time on the French ship to Marseille. It was a big impact of a lot of Polish personnel, which different ways, not only to Romania, but via Hungary and other countries, Yugoslavia. They were escaping from Poland to France, where I completely recovered from my wounds. Then when in January, our commanding-in-chief, General Sikorski, signed with French authorities the agreement that we could organize and form a few squadrons in France. In July 1940, I arrived in Liverpool, and then we joined Royal Air Force. In March 1941, finally, I was posted to Polish 300 bomber squadron, in which I served. I flew about 36 sorties over Germany. I became squadron commander at the rank of squadron leader.
Well, instead of going to reserve and training duties, I better volunteer to special squadron, which took only volunteers because they know that once you were shot down, you had it. You couldn't possibly survive because we were flying very low, about 20 meters, 25 meters, just on T-top. That prevent the Germans to get on the radar. Because radar can to France, they were hopeless. About 12 times. Denmark, twice. Poland, 3 or 4 times, I don't remember. No, I think it's on the fourth times I was shot down, coming back from Poland. The other one was a more experienced fighter. The next time he came around, and the first burst of tracers, you could see that tracer coming to you, and he start fire on my right tanks. Either you land quicker or you explode. Well, I was flying at so low, I said, I better come down quickly before my explode in the air. Unfortunately, I finish up with hospital. I didn't know how. And I wake up at hospital.
I know the Germans are looking for young Poles to catch them and take them to Germany for work or to camp, something like that. So we decided with friends better we escape. We heard that in the France is new government, Polish government in exile. So they formed the army. So we said better we go over there. So by coming to Constantinople, in Turkey, I was nearly free man. They put us to train and go to Syria. In Syria was the camp with Polish army. So I got uniform.
Now from there on, Russia started, or the Russians, started to deport Poles to Siberia. 2 million Poles deported from Poland to the working camps in Russia. 2 million.
I think the saddest moment in my life was when 20 our officers from Krosno, his colleagues, walked towards me. Everyone said, Mrs. Wolanski, tell my wife so-and-so. Tell my wife I love her. Tell my wife I never part with the string of pearls. I cried, believe me.
There was a pressure from British side to the Russian to release the Poles from the camps in Siberia. And about 60,000 come to Persia. 60,000 people. This was the beginning of the Polish army, the Second Corps, what we call it.
In August, the Polish brigade go to Tobruk. And we stay over there to 9th of December.
Tobruk was defended by the Australian 9th Division. So it has to be relieved. So it was decided to relieve them with the Polish brigade, which was a very strong brigade, had about 4,000 men, and by some British contingent.
This resistance army. So from the April 1940, I served, took an oath, and was a soldier in our resistance army.
It was an organized resistance movement, and every young people joined, and of course me too.
I was sworn in 1940, and the uprising was in 44. 4 years. I must say that I was lucky. Well, I consider myself extremely lucky. Many of my, friends and people that I worked with were caught and transported either to concentration camps. Some of them just tortured and shot. We had, I was active in these collecting, not collecting, buying, I suppose, procuring arms. And of course,
And they sent me to sabotage unit. And my duty was to take care of pistols and revolvers, delivery for actions and collect after actions and hide them. I still remember the names of some: Parabellum, Vis, Czeska Zbrojówka, FM, Mauser, lots different types.
There was a feeling that of one big nation who is fighting for its life. And whether you were a peasant or a university professor, that feeling was evident.
Ausweis. It means the card which allowed me to move freely over this terrain. I was working as a social worker. There's another Ken card under the name of Jan Domska. Two difference. The moment I was on my way as an underground, I worked in this intelligence service, so I was as Domska. When I went, to visit schools or work, in this health center, I was Wolanska. So even my closest family didn't know that I am in this underground.
So most of my friends really, most of them just died in that part of the city. But the first days of uprising in where I was a real ball, real euphoria. People were dancing on the street and hoisting the Polish flags and thinking that now really it's the end of occupation. Of course, main hopes were on Russian army, who stood on the other side of the river Vistula, and in those first days they were even active. There were Russian planes above the town and they bombarded German targets. So that was a good start, but of course after that, after a week I think, the bombardment stopped. There was not a single Russian plane, and they just stood and watched. Of course, it was in line with their political thinking and the strategy. They simply wanted Germans to crush the uprising. And that's what finally happened after 63 days.
After Warsaw, you know how tragically it ended. Capitulation on the 2nd of October. People had to leave.
After the Warsaw, I was taken to prisoner. I was taken as prisoner of war. I was in several camps. First camps was in Bergen-Belsen. Then we were moved to Molsdorf. From Molsdorf to Blankenheim, from Blankenheim to Burg.
But he was picked up during the Warsaw Uprising and sent to the Sachsenhausen concentration camp. His parents, that's his mother and stepfather, were also arrested at that stage. I think she spent a short time in Sachsenhausen, and then they transferred her to another concentration camp. I'm afraid I don't remember which one that was. And so it was while they were in those concentration camps that they corresponded by way of these postcards in German. And his strong religious faith was one of the things which kept him going and helped him survive. So he made himself a rosary out of string, just by knotting it, to say his prayers at night. But even that was illegal. The situation under which he lived was horrific. He met with a lot of cruelty and extreme barbarism, but there were also flashes of kindness. He met with a lot of kindness from individual Germans, people who helped him, guards who gave them bread when they could. They quite often found a loaf of bread under the...
And at the end of the war, I went back to Warsaw. I found out that NKWD, you are looking for me. So I ran away again. I took my son to Gdańsk, and I worked there at the academy, medical academy, as a social worker. In the July 1946, his cousin came to Gdańsk with a note. Leave everything and follow that man. That was all. I took my son, nothing else, one suitcase. So we came to Alhorn, who was this Air Force division, and they told me that they knew my husband.
There was Polish squadron based there on the occupation zone.
And on the 15th of August, my husband arrived. Bob was 7 years old, nearly 8 years old then, and he didn't know what his father looks like. So it was tatuś, tatuś. It was, some officers cried.
They tried to arrest all the underground people because they feared that they will form a corps of resistance in the future. Tens of thousands were arrested, and I have been arrested on the 20th of February 1945 of the country. And after from Lublin, transports of underground men were going to the Soviet Russia. So I was lucky that I could escape before reaching Lublin.
We went home, to Poland, we went home, and after them in Poland, we got nothing to see, nothing, then I went back to Germany, 1949, and I went to Australia, 1949.
When we decided that we would go to Australia, we went into a transit camp, one transit camp, another transit camp, and eventually we were on the train to Italy, from which we were to go by ship to Australia.
To come to Australia or emigrate anywhere, we had to be checked by many commissions and by doctors, and we had to have many injections and x-rays.
Then suddenly we got message. They call it every night, the name, by the microphone. The whole camp got the microphone, and they said, this in this name, please report to this in this office. Everybody was anxious to listening. Is our name on it or not? Are you waiting or another waiting?
When turning the corner of the continent, I saw the barren, strange shores of Australia. It was so foreign, so strange. So, I said to myself, oh, how soon will I be able to get out from here? And, for the first years, I only hoped that things will change that much in Europe that I will be able to return there. And I was terribly homesick.
It was a bit of a shock, in a way, because we got off the ship immediately into the train, and we went to Bonegilla, which is north of Melbourne. And this was in January, so it was very hot. The country was all dry, and my mother was really upset. She saw the dry grass, the yellow grass, and the dead trees all along the railway line. And we were, of course, we knew before we came to Australia that we were on a contract, 2-year contract, to work where directed, and we were told that the family could be split up, and it was. But eventually, by about 6 months later, we were all together in Adelaide. Because my father finished the fruit picking, that season had finished, and we bought a block of land, and we put 2 tents up on the block of land, and we were at home then.